360 versus PC thing, and everyone thinks, oh my God, you're making all these changes because of the 360. Honestly, it's a low-end PC. Because we can see in our Steam stats that we publish that who's got what systems, and what does it mean if you can't support that system? How many customers are you going to lose, right? How many people aren't going to play your game? So we make a lot of choices based on being able to hit the whole range. The cool thing with Left 4 Dead 2 is if you could play Left 4 Dead 1, you'll be able to play Left 4 Dead 2. If you have a high-end machine, Left 4 Dead 2 will look even better than Left 4 Dead 1. So instead of moving up the whole scale, what we did was kept the bottom the same and extended the top.
You mentioned a Viper tool. Did you call it Viper that you used to analyze gamers and your user testers? Is that an in-house tool? Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so one of our programmers, Charlie Bergen, created it, and what it does is actually lay off. Well, it does two things. One, in real time, so let me backtrack a little bit. So when we have people from the outside come in, we watch them play. Back in episode 1 and episode 2, we would actually sit in the room with them, and they would play. Well, what would happen is often you would get somebody who kind of hammed it up because they were on stage, right? And they weren't really playing, they were playing to us. Or they weren't playing like they would play in their home. And the best thing you could try to do is give this environment of people playing in their home. And so what Viper lets us do is they get to go off in their offices, and they've got a camera on their face and a camera, and we can see their screen. So we know what's going on. And so they just get to play as if they're playing on their own, right? There's no outside force. We don't talk to them. We don't give them hints. We don't tell them anything to do. So in real time, we can watch the 4 faces and the 4 screens. The 4 faces are really important for a lot of what I do, a lot of the writing and stuff. You can really tell if someone's tuning out, or if they're excited, or if they're laughing, or how that's going. And then the cool thing then is it saves it all, and it saves everything as an event. So you can go back and you can see every event that happened. You can understand when they wiped, what was their health at, what was going on. When this person died, oh, they went off on their own, right? And it really helps us to kind of compress down these really long play sessions. Because if people come in for 4 hours, and really we probably only care about 20 minutes of that play test, that lets us kind of compress it down.
What are your thoughts on the Australian government banning the sale of Left 4 Dead in stores there?
Yeah, it's one of those things of every country's got the right to their culture's different. They want to protect it, and we're totally understanding of that, totally respect that. The problem becomes when some of the systems put in place to talk about that aren't up to date and don't understand what's going on. Obviously we wish if in Australia we could be selling the full game. I think there's some confusion on their part. It really kind of caught us off guard. We work with Germany a lot. They're very clear. We understand what we need to do there. And so Australia kind of caught us a little off guard on that. I mean, one of the cool things here in Europe is UK is actually going to PEGI. And then the cool thing about that is just it's less rating boards, and having a rating board's fine, right? We understand that you want to protect the kids or whatever, and but it's understanding what they want, and not being just obscure about it. And so with any of the rating boards, it's just we just want to know what's going to give us this rating and what's not. In that case, there's some confusion on our part of like, really? So obviously we wish it wouldn't have happened, but the Australians have a version that's totally great, and they'll enjoy it as well. So. Oh, and just one thing, because I saw some people in the forums talking about not wanting to play with Australians because, oh my God, riot cops, or actually, excuse me, they're not actually cops, they're security, don't appear on the server because they're on. Well, first of all, those uncommon comment only are in the parish. And we're looking at a way to get around that of giving them something else so that that doesn't happen. We'll see down the road.
You were talking earlier about inverses not being able to play as the common infected, but with the uncommon infected, would you be able to play as them inverses?
No, it's because it's the same reason for the first answer really is they have like I think triple the health of a common, but it's still pretty easy to kill. By the time you get in them and you understand what's going on, you're going to want to spawn. I mean, if you can choose to be the jockey or if you can choose to be the clown, think you're gonna be the jockey.
Were there any scenario ideas that you came up with that you thought were really, really good and maybe even got to sort of a testing stage or a coding stage, but everybody else thought was awful and then got discarded?
No. Actually, we're so iterative that we don't normally, that doesn't normally happen. What'll happen is, like, in instance, Dark Carnival. I don't know if people have seen some of that, right? It's in a fairgrounds. We started working on that, and it felt a little flat at first, and then we kept adding things, and then eventually it became, I use the analogy of, you know how in the X-Files there's some episodes that aren't canon, that kind of just sit out on their own, they're this little goofy thing? That's almost what Dark Carnival is. We just kept adding stuff to it and then got carried away. Like, so there's actually some of the games you can play. You can win the gnome. There's a little thing you do with the gnome, get a little prize. But you run a roller coaster. There's all this cool stuff in there. The finale's on a rock stage with the rock music blaring and pyrotechnics going off. And it's just, that's more an example of we took something that we thought didn't have enough going for it and just kept adding to it until we were really happy with it.
Okay, I think we've got time for a couple more questions.
Hi. Is there any plans to have special updates similar to how Team Fortress 2 has its Halloween update at the moment that will only last for about a week or two?
We're going to be updating Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. What that's going to be and how that comes, we haven't really discussed yet. If you're reading the forums and you read about the Miracle DLC or whatever, that's test code left in by Vitali. I'll wring his neck for that. But to get tested through Microsoft certification, we had to do test scenarios of DLC. So we haven't actually come out internally with what we're going to do yet.
Hi there. Have you modified the original Special Infected to work with the newer ones? For instance, the Hunter is like a charger in terms of stopping you from doing anything, but it's much weaker. So does it do more damage?
I missed the very beginning of that. I'm sorry.
Have you modified the original Special Infected?
Well, so we've made some changes in their look, like the boomer and there's a boomette now. To be fair, not only guys are fat, and then we've also just modified their behaviors and how they work together. I think one of my favorite is just watching. The spitter pulls somebody into, the smoker pulls somebody into spitter goo or something like that. So you'll see the specials really work well together, and that becomes really hard. Other than that, we haven't changed their base behavior, or their base, mechanics.
Okay, this guy's had his arm up for a really long time.
I think he's got the mic already. Look at that.
Okay.
You just got to yell out, cut in, interrupt.
It's just a quick question about survival mode.
Sure.
I know when it was released for Left 4 Dead 1, it probably got played the least compared to like campaign and versus. I wonder if that's changed anyway, particularly the difficulty scale, the way it gets hard very, very quickly. You've got multiple smokers, multiple hunters, 2 tanks coming after like 30 seconds. I wonder if it's been eased on or modified in a way to make it a bit easy going.
Well, so survival mode's always going to be this weird place because really it's people want to get to like either a gold medal or something, and then they're not going to play that again. They don't go back to it. So we actually saw, like when survival mode came out, we saw a huge spike of players playing. It was the most popular mode until they had hit their points, and then they kind of put it away. And now when we see community maps coming out, we'll see them going back to it and playing it some more while they go through those. But it doesn't have the staying power that like co-op or versus or scavenge mode have. And I just don't think it's going to. That wasn't kind of the idea behind it. One of the cool things that we did with Left 4 Dead 2 is I think Left 4 Dead 1, we had this, let's just make as many maps as we can, and a lot of them are fairly similar. In Left 4 Dead 2, we culled it down to like the 10 best. We had them all made as survival maps, and then just kept playing them and culling them down until we have really cool experiences. So like in Swamp Fever, there's this place where you call a ferry, and in the game you use the ferry to cross over the river. In survival mode, you call the ferry, and actually the ferry, when it comes in 4 or 5 minutes, it's filled with goodies. It's filled with health kits and pipe bombs and stuff. And so we kind of changed the experience that way and kind of really made all the best survival maps, included. If you're playing survival maps now, though, in Left 4 Dead 1, you should check out the hospital. That's my favorite, by the elevator, because all the rooms open up and tons of goodies, good times.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for.